You're listening to the Holistic Spaces podcast brought to you by Mindful Design Feng Shui School. Episode 355, Feng Shui for the Perfect Home Office. Welcome to episode 355 of the Holistic Spaces podcast, where we hope to inspire, educate, and empower you to create your own holistic spaces that nurture and resonate with you. Angie Cho and Laura Morris are the founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School and authors of Mindful Living, a guide to the everyday magic of Feng Shui. We teach Feng Shui online at mindfuldesignschool.com. Be sure to sign up for our mailing list. Go to mindfuldesignschool.com/join. There's also probably a button somewhere in the show notes on this podcast app that you're listening to this on. And we have lots of things coming up. So we hope you're already on the list or you'll join the list. Make sure you're getting the newsletter. It comes every Friday because we have a lot of stuff coming out soon. So this is the Super Bowl of Mindful Design School season. So this is Super Bowl season for us. So we have Lunar New Year coming up. We have our New Year's Reset program, our Lunar New Year ceremony. We have a winter offering only for our newsletter subscribers. So join and learn more about what we offer outside of the podcast. And we also have our Feng Shui certification program that starts in February, which is the beginning of the Lunar New Year. That's why we start every February. So for this episode, we named it Feng Shui for the Perfect Home Office. But if you know us, we would say that there's no perfect. So it's probably more aptly titled Feng Shui for the Ideal or Perfectly Imperfect Home Office. But we're going to offer you in this episode some ideas of what is an ideal home office from a feng shui perspective. And before we started this episode, Laura and I were just chatting. I was telling her how in our modern world, we're very fractured. And so this is starting to be reflected in how we work as well. I mean, not only is our attention fractured, like we have multiple ways that people are contacting us through phone calls, texts, DMs, WhatsApp, Instagram messaging, in-app messaging. I don't know, so many different ways. And we have multiple ways of communication. And it's really like, affecting like how we can focus. So the feedback I hear from a lot of folks is, well, I have multiple desks or I don't have a desk. And from a feng shui perspective, and actually personally, because Laura and I are business people and we've been business partners for quite some time now. And before that, we were business partners. I mean, we had our own businesses. And so we've been entrepreneurs for quite some time. And before that, we worked for people. And so I know desks are changing even in the workspace. There's hoteling. You don't have a permanent desk, but we encourage you to look at this in a way that's helpful for you. So what are the principles that apply to you? And there's always exceptions. For instance, like I had a consultation that our students audited for a client who was starting to extract herself from from her primary business and ready to kind of start a second like thing, and wanted that business that was her primary business to function without her. So we actually put her out of command in a lot of ways in her office space. And then, for instance, there's people like I have a client that the one of the people in like the husband in the relationship, he does have a primary desk, but he also goes into the office and sits in multiple places to work with different teams because he's working with several teams because he manages several teams. So he goes and sits with the group that he's working with. And then he also often works at his dining room table. So you can have multiple places, but from a feng shui perspective, we would also say it's really helpful to have a home base, to have a primary desk that is your foundation.
Yes, I would agree. And I think one thing that we have to remember is a lot of times when we're sharing these concepts and these ideas, they seem to be maybe outdated in some ways. And then we recognize that the workforce now or working or careers it's not a cultural monolith like it used to be where you go to office every day and you check in and you have your own desk. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that these are based. What we're talking about is based on something that is thousands and thousands of years old. And so we're taking the principles and we're applying them to modern work society. And yes, it has to shift. And yes, it has to change. But I would also say the things that we're going to talk about today, which are quote unquote, the ideal, there might be an opportunity for you to strive to get closer to that just because there's a reason why it works. And again, having a home base that maybe has some of these principles in it, it's easy to say, I can't do that. It's not convenient. It's very difficult for me to do that because my job doesn't let it happen. But then I would maybe ask, is your job a little bit chaotic? Do you feel like you're fractured? Do you feel like you're at frayed at ends and you just don't feel like you're settled? And then that's when you may have to, you know, take a step back and say, okay, maybe for the expense of taking a little more time and being a little more thoughtful and mindful, I can create something that meets these principles, but may be a little bit less convenient in some ways. In some ways. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. So let's get started. Again, this is the ideal, not perfect or perfectly imperfect. I like the way you said that. But overall, if you are looking to focus on your work life, your career, you may want to take a look at what's going on in terms of your workspace or your desk. In Feng Shui, certain areas of your home or parts of your home connect directly with parts of your life. And so your office and your desk are connected to your career. This makes sense, right? Because everything is energetic in Feng Shui. And so whether you're setting up a new workspace or you're looking to upgrade or refresh or refocus an existing space, we are pulling together some Feng Shui tips to optimize your home office / workspace, whatever you like to call it. Okay. So first off, let's pay attention to the flow of your home office or your office at work, whatever we're speaking of. Your basic, like your number one base of work. Is there enough space around your desk? Are there obstacles that prevent you from getting to your desk to sit down easily? Because if there is, this could represent blocks. So that means these obstacles or difficulties can mean that there are things unnecessarily challenging in your work life as well. Okay. So if you do notice that there are physical blocks, obstacles, anything that makes it longer, harder to get to your desk and to sit down at it, see if you can remove or rearrange them. Because you want to be able to approach your desk and sit down with ease that will extend into ease overall in your work life as well. And so that you're able to grow, more easily and perform more easily.
So, another feng shui recommendation for your home workspace is to find a dedicated workspace or area. So, we understand, like we mentioned earlier in this podcast, that not everyone has the room for a separate home office space, but what is your home work area like? Ideally, a desk is best for a surface, but we also have made accommodations for different types of situations. Maybe you work at the edge of your dining room table, maybe you work on your coffee table, maybe you do a little bit of both. So the best option is to have a solid desk, a permanent work area. But if the best you can do is your dining room table, that's okay. Again, it's better if you do have a separate room, that you can have a separate home office space that has a door to really balance that work life boundary. And that's ideal. It's not always possible. So if you do need to put your desk in a multifunctional space, try to choose a space that's not the bedroom. But if you do have to have it in your bedroom, maybe you can set it up so you're not staring at your bed when you're doing your work. Because having your desk in the bedroom can be a distraction when you're trying to work and can also make it more challenging to wind down at night. So if you're staring at your desk, it's so much easier to pop up and like go remember that work thing you forgot. And if you have to have a desk in the bedroom and that's your only option, you can try to separate the space with a room divider, a bookcase, a curtain, or at the very least, you can put away, if you have a laptop, shut it down, turn it off, put it in a drawer. Or if you have a desktop, you can cover it with a beautiful scarf or fabric so that it's not visibly right there staring at you, as the first thing you see when you wake up and the last thing that you see when you go to bed. Another like nuance that we've included in our teachings for people who do have like a mobile kind of desk situation at home, you could also get a desk blotter that acts as like a constant, like, you can purchase them online, find them pretty easily, a desk blotter that you can roll out and have that be your desk surface that you can put your computer and your notebook and everything on. And that is like a signal, a feng shui signal that this is your work time. And maybe that's what you set up on your island or your dining room table or your coffee table.
They make those, eh? Have you seen the ones they make? You can roll out and then they have something for your phone and somewhere for your thing, and it's all like click it plugs in. It's really cool. The next would be to make sure that you are in command. And Angie had spoke a little bit about the reverse of this that she did with a client, because the idea behind this is, again, you're at work and you feel like you need to grab hold of the reins, like you need to really get a handle on what's going on at your work. You need to feel in control of what's happening. Perhaps you have direct reports or people under you that you feel like you need to get a better sense of what's going on. So this is a really important part, is to be able to place your desk or where you sit in a position so that you can be in command of what you see. So if you're at a home office or in a home office, it would be sitting so that you can have a view of the main entrance into whatever room that is. So you're sitting at your desk, you look up and you can see, let's say, the main door in, or if it's open concept, you can see the main traffic that's coming towards you. And ideally, your back will be supported by a wall or to a wall as opposed to a giant open space. Okay. And if you're in an office environment, this is incredibly important. So you can sit and you can have this vista and view, and you're able to literally and energetically, literally, you can see people coming into your office so that you can address them and you don't feel like you're caught off guard. But also on a subconscious level, you're recognizing, you're seeing, and you're welcoming, and you're able to tackle new opportunities and things that come up in your business. Note, if you cannot set your desk up in this way, you can place a mirror so that you are looking at the reflection of the door while you're sitting at your desk. So moving your desk is best, but if you can't, you can use a small mirror somehow, either on your desktop or standing, whatever works for you. Get creative.
Another thing that comes up a lot with the commanding position nowadays is that people set up their desk to face out the window because it's better for your Zoom screen
Mm,
and better lighting, which I get. What I usually say to people is, I can only give you like the feng shui suggestion, but in reality, like you could set up a light if you're on Zoom all the time, which will actually provide better lighting than the window because it's more reliable at all hours of the day. And, we don't want to be on Zoom all the time or on
mhm.
a conference call all the time or Teams, whatever it is. You can also move your laptop for specific situations because when you are on Zoom, you can actually see you end up staring at your reflection and you do see behind you. So you are in command when you're actually on Zoom or on a video call usually. So there's many different ways to think about it, but in general, we would say put yourself in command. And that brings up the window question. Ideally, you want to have the window, you're not facing the window, the window is to your side. This is going to be a very long episode, so we won't tell you why, but we definitely can if you it's in another episode somewhere. Okay. Okay, I'll just tell you why. So basically, you want your chi to stay on your desk or with your work on your desk, focus on your desk instead of out the window. So when you're facing your desk to look straight out the window, which you certainly can, remember, these are suggestions for feng shui suggestions if you want to improve your career. But if your career is going really well and you like how it's going, you don't have to make these changes.
Mhm. I think that's important
That's an
note.
important thing. So if you need to make big moves in your career, we would suggest that if you think about a CEO's office, even though he has or they
She.
have she has
They.
wonderful corner office views, typically, you never see them facing out the window, the desk facing out the window with the back to the whole office. They wanna see their team. They wanna see what's going on. And so that is the primary purpose of an office. So if you're sitting at your desk, I always tell my clients, well, of course, like they say, but I'm so excited to be sitting at my desk and looking out at my backyard and looking at the birds
Birds. There
and
you
the
go.
squirrels and stuff. And I said, "That's great, but personally, I would rather do my work very focused, be present for my work, having fun with that, being immersed in that work."
They call it getting locked in, being
Yeah.
locked in.
Or in your zone of genius, right? Like really like losing time and having fun in the work that you're creating, making the world a better place. And then close and then walking away from the desk and going and out being in nature, going out, being with the birds, not staring at them out the window. And then also you can have multiple desks. Maybe you have a writing desk for just writing that you do look out the window and inspired by nature. But generally for like a work career thing, like it's helpful to be in command. So that leads to two last tips well, actually a few different tips that we have, but one tip that we have is with your desk, we recommend a solid and stable desk. So when it comes to choosing a desk, it's best to have one that's solid and sturdy, which will help you create more stability in your career. So not one that's flimsy, not one that's inexpensive that like could fall over like if you hit it if you hit it the wrong way. And you want to make sure that it's big enough for you to work on comfortably. So if you only need your laptop and that's it, but if that maybe a small desk is okay, but some people try to squeeze all their big ideas and all their grand ideas onto something really small. And that's kind of a shame. Like give yourself the room to expand and to have fun and to have a lot of movement in your career by having a desk that's big enough for you to expand your ideas. And ideally, you want to avoid a material like glass for the work surface because the feng shui perspective on that is ideas and projects can fall through and it's a fragile surface. That said, I know people who already have a glass desk, maybe they're not at a place to change it. So you could back paint it, you can underpaint it, but really a solid wood desk is usually the best.
Mhm. And to accompany your desk, you should choose a good chair. And a good chair will give you that extra support when you're working. Again, looking for a chair that has a high back, which will provide that support because it not only supports you physically, but energetically. And it should be comfortable to sit in. It should be solid. It should be easy to get in and out of. Obviously, all of these things. Some people like to sit on, I guess, different types of things for, I want to say, like to like strengthen their backs or to do different things. But, if you're going to do that for a little while, but then definitely you want to have your main desk to be a substantive, high backed chair. Okay. We're going to close with our last little tips. And it's around the idea of what is your desk telling you? You can use the Bagua. The Bagua is the energetic map or mandala that we have. If you don't know what it is, check it out in our book. You can use the Bagua on your desk to reveal what is going on in your work life. So, as many of you know, this Feng Shui Bagua mandala, it has 8 areas. And each of these areas can also actually be laid down and it can be applied to your desk. And if you lay this Bagua onto your desk, it might give you clues about areas of your career. So one thing you could look at is, where does the clutter tend to accumulate on your desk? For example, do things often pile up in what is called the wealth or abundance corner? when you're sitting at your desk, the top left corner. This would mean that your wealth may be tied up, may be getting slow and impeded.
Or do you have clutter on the top right corner, which is connected to relationships? So this could symbolize a block in your work relationships or your work partnerships. Or if you're sitting at your desk, the center back area is that clutter. That could mean that your fame, your visibility, your recognition is being affected, that maybe you're not being seen or recognized for the work that you're doing. So, what you can do is clear and open these parts of your physical space, your desk, so you can energetically open up these areas of your career as well. And as you clear the clutter, set an intention that you're clearing a path for more opportunity in these parts of your work life. So, we hope that you will all receive something that you can apply to your home work area, because almost everyone has a home work area now, home workspace. And we hope that it offers an opportunity for you to receive more wealth, abundance, more visibility, or whatever you need in your career right now. Maybe you just need a little bit more ease. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Holistic Spaces podcast. You can tune in every Monday for a new episode. If you like our podcast, you can share it with others. You can subscribe. You can leave a review. Those are really great. You can always support us by joining our mailing list. So go to mindfuldesignschool.com/join. And you can also look in the show notes. There should be a link there. And we have a certification course. That's the main thing we do. We teach a 6-month, 100-hour Feng Shui training program for people who want to dive deeply into Feng Shui for themselves, or to become a practitioner, or to add on to their existing businesses. And we also have mini courses available. So we have one available coming soon for the Lunar New Year to really work with this very potent, powerful time between the winter and Lunar New Year. And we also have a lot of free offerings at this time of year. So please sign up for our mailing list, mindfuldesignschool.com/join. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.